Good morning, children. Welcome to Sociology class. This video is the continuation of the chapter Status and Role. We are studying status. As we have studied in the previous video that there are two kinds of statuses. First one is ascribed status and second is achieved. In this video, we are going to discuss the determinants of status. Here we see that there are two statuses. The determinants of ascribed statuses are different and the determinants of achieved status is different. So let us discuss the first one, ascribed status. There are two processes by which the status of a person in society is formed. These are the process of ascription and the process of achievement. Every society is confronted with the necessity of making a choice between the two. There may be a society in which status is ascribed, while in another society the status may be achieved. So we are discussing ascribed status. The status which a child receives at the time he is ushered into the process of socialization is his ascribed status, since he has not achieved it. This status is ascribed to him at the time when society knows least about the potentialities of the child. So in this ascribed its status, when it is determined, there are few things on the basis of which this ascribed status is determined. The first we can take sex. All societies prescribe different attitudes and roles to men and women. These differences are sought to be justified in terms of the physiological differences between the two sexes, means men and women. However, a comparative study of the roles assigned to men and women shows that biological differences speak little for ascription of status. If we study the societies, we see that there are mainly two types of societies. Some are patrilineal societies and some are matrilineal societies. In the patrilineal societies, more importance is given to the male members. So they get a high status. They are the decision makers and all other members are their subordinates. But if we study the matrilineal societies, we see that more importance is given to the female members, especially the senior most female. So obviously they get a high status in those societies. So we see that when the status is ascribed on the basis of sex, it differs from society to society. Somewhere male members get more respect and a high status, and somewhere the female members get more respect and high status. Now the another determinant is age. Age is an important factor used by all the societies for the assignments of roles. Like sex, it is a definite and highly visible physiological fact. Generally, our society recognizes at least 5 age periods. First, infancy, second, childhood, third, adolescence, fourth, adulthood, and fifth is old age. So these 5 categories are generally recognized in most of the societies. The transition from the status of the unborn to the status of the living is marked by ceremonies. Here we can take some examples of age, like if we take the relation of father and son. It is seen that the father has higher status than the son. If the father has 4 sons, then we see that the eldest son gets the highest status in the family. If we take brothers, then as I have explained, that the elder brother has higher status than the younger brother. So in the same way, according to age, the family members get the status as well as some roles in the family. Then the third determinant of ascribed status is kinship. Kinship is the group of our family or family members. Generally, the society ascribes status to a child on the basis of his relations to his parents and the siblings. His status is identified with that of his parents. If the parents belong to a royal family, the child is also counted in the same status. If the parents are very poor and they are counted in the low rung of the society, naturally the child also gets that low status in the society. Though such identification is arbitrary, means based on random choices, as there is no necessary relation between the capacities of the parents and those of the offsprings, yet this is the most socially convenient way to relate the child to rest of the society and train him accordingly. If we study the past, we generally see that the children of the royal family or the family of a king were trained differently, and the children of the lower rank were trained differently. In a caste system, the child takes the parent's status. If the parents or the father is Brahmin, the child is also called Brahmin. If the parents are belonging to scheduled caste, the child is also counted in the same. So the status, this ascribed status, is also given according to the kinship, means the status of the family or the status of siblings. Next determinant is the social factors. So sex, age and kinship do not exhaust all the bases for ascription of status. Sometimes purely social factors are used as a basis for ascription. All societies classify their members into a number of groups or categories and ascribe to such categories differing degrees and status, and it is given, this ascription is given by the society. These groups may originate in many different ways. They may arise out of differences in technical skill or other abilities. They may also originate through the formation of some social units such as teachers or officers, etc. So these are the different groups which are made by the society, and their status is also given by the society. They may also originate through the formation of some social units. This tendency to prevent the entry may result in the organization of society into a series of hereditary classes and caste. As in these groups, the entry of the outsiders is prohibited. Such hereditary classes and castes are used as a reference point for the ascription of status. For example, there were four varnas in the ancient Indian society: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. The society gave the highest status to Brahmins and lowest to Shudras. So these are some of the social factors which ascribe the status of a person. Then we can see that there are some other bases or determinants of ascription. Since the individual manifests certain racial traits at the time of his birth, hence it is possible to ascribe him a racial status. There are many kinds of races, and the society has divided these races into higher and lower. Generally, we see that the people of white skin, they are called the high races, and the people of black skin, they are considered as low races. So, on the basis of race also, the status is ascribed. There is no choice about the place of birth. Sometimes the status is determined on the basis of the place of birth. If the place of birth is an urban area, then the people get the high status. But if the place of birth is a remote area or a village area, then the status is considered as low. So sometimes the status is also decided on the basis of place of birth. Hence this regional and natural status is ascribed. So all these are the determinants of ascribed status. In the same way, children, there are some determinants of the achieved status also. You all know what is achieved status? The status of a person in the society which is achieved by him through his own efforts. It is not provided by the society from the time of birth, but he achieves it. So there are some determinants of the achieved status also. Like first one is wealth and income. Generally this status, this achieved status is closely related to social class. And we know that mainly there are three classes: the upper class, middle class and the lower class. So this achieved status is determined by wealth and income. Possession of substantial amount of wealth is the main characteristic distinguishing the high status from other status groups in the society. Persons having more wealth and income generally have higher social position and respect in society. Wealth and income are an important determinant of social status, partly because of the way of life it permits or enforces. So we see that a high status or a high social class is basically a way of life, and partly because it suggests about one's family life and the way of life. Upper class children have a better chance, and for their grandchildren a secure upper class status is practically assured. Wealth and income over a period of time usually gains upper class status. So we have seen that the first determinant of achieved status is wealth and income. If our wealth and income is high, we get high status, and it determines our way of life also. Then the second determinant is the occupation. Which occupation we are linked with? Occupation is an exceedingly important aspect of social class or social status. As such, it is another determinant of social status. It is a well-known fact that some kinds of work are more honorable than others. For example, doctors, engineers, administrators, professors, and lawyers hold a higher position than a car mechanic or a manual worker. The high prestige occupations generally receive the higher incomes. Yet, there are many exceptions. Occupation is also one of the best clues to one's way of life. So, like income and wealth, it also determines our way of life and therefore to one's social class membership. It affects many other facets of life like values, high beliefs, marital relations, other than determining the social class. So the second determinant of achieved status is occupation. The third determinant is education. Education plays a very important role in determining the social status of a person. There is a close reciprocal relationship between social status and education. If our education is high, the status is high. If education is low or no education, then our status is low. To get a higher education, one needs money plus motivation. Upper class children already have money for the finest schools and colleges. They also have family tradition and social encouragement. One's amount and kind of education affects the class rank he will secure. This education is one of the main determinant of the social status or social class. But sometimes the people, because all these determinants are related to the achieved status, sometimes a person who is born in an uneducated family where there is no education, but with his efforts, when he gets higher education, his lifestyle also gets changed. So then after receiving that higher education, he also gets the high status in the society. So we can say that if a child born in a poor family can also get a higher status after achieving high education. So the third important determinant of achieved status is education, and the last is prestige. What is meant by prestige? It refers to the respect and admiration with which an occupation is regarded by society. So there is prestige which is related to some of the occupations. Prestige is independent of the particular person who occupies a job. Sociologists have tried to assign prestige ranking to various occupations. We have already seen that some of the occupations are closely linked with high prestige, like the doctors, engineers, scientists. They all are related to high prestige. Another example, a recipient of Veer Chakra, because this award is rare in society, in a country. So a person who receives the Veer Chakra is also gets high prestige, means high status. So besides wealth, occupation and education, there are certain other criteria which help a person to attain higher social status in the society. So these are family backgrounds, kinship relations, location of residence, etc. But education, occupation and expended income are the most fairly visible clues of social status. With these are associated most of the other behavior characteristics which make one belong to a high status. So we have seen that here are 4 determinants of status. The first one is wealth and income, second occupation, third is education, and fourth is prestige.